Iranians are about to vote on a new president after the sudden death of Ebrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash in May. But what powers does the president actually hold in the country's unique power structure? Well, at the very top is Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. When it comes to foreign policy, he's the ultimate decision maker. He also approves decisions made by Iran's Supreme National Security Council on issues like nuclear policy and defence. As for the president, well, they get a say but don't have the final call. Instead, the president runs other policies on the economy, environment and health. They also set the direction with respect to domestic freedoms, although in recent years the president's influence over this area has lessened. So, back to the presidential election. Who gets to run is decided by Iran's Guardian Council. It's a 12-member supervisory body overseen by the Supreme Leader that ensures laws and political candidates are in line with the Constitution. In 2021, a number of hopefuls were barred from running against Raisi, and the turnout was the lowest in the Republic's history. This time, 6 were picked to run, 5 from the conservative or so-called hardline camp, and only 1 reformist. There are 3 main contenders. The first is Tehran's former mayor and current Speaker of Parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf. He once presented himself as Iran's Islamic answer to the iron-fisted monarch Reza Shah. He ran in 2005, 2013 and in 2017.
اگر توفیق خدمت پیدا کردم پاسخگو باشم جوابگو باشم و هرگز بهانه‌جویی نکنم.
What are his policies? Well, all candidates are supposed to continue the work of the Raisi administration. That's the mandate from the Supreme Leader. That's troubled some voters as Raisi oversaw a turbulent period with protests, worsening ties with Western powers and an economic crisis. But Ghalibaf has promised a few differences. He's more open to diplomacy with the US, nuclear talks, and has pledged to work to remove sanctions. Oh, and he's also promised to build a wall on Iran's eastern border with Afghanistan and expel illegal immigrants. His main challenger is the sole reformist Masoud Pezeshkian. He's been endorsed by former Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif and former President and reformist leader Mohammad Khatami. He's running on a platform against corruption and sanctions and says he wants to continue Khatami's legacy. But then he said he didn't really need a plan if he takes office because he's going to be following the Supreme Leader's plan for the country's future anyway. Then there's perennial candidate Saeed Jalili. He's a political veteran whose policies are ideologically driven. He's held numerous high posts, including as nuclear negotiator, where he famously frustrated diplomats across the world. And he's close to the Supreme Leader. So what about the voters? Well, much like in 2021, polls show there's widespread voter apathy. Many Iranians believe the real power doesn't lie with elected officials. There are also calls for a boycott from high-profile Iranians like jailed human rights activist and Nobel laureate Narges Mohammadi. One of the candidates needs to get 50% plus 1 of the vote to win, and if no one reaches that mark, this will go to a runoff.